Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 290 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book is called From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. So you can go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, writing a book with the Greek University team was easily one of the most rewarding experiences we've ever done as a team. Not only did it bring us closer together as a team, but it also allowed us to leave behind books with our students after a program on their campus so they can continue learning every week after we leave. Many fraternity and sorority chapters, they share the book and they talk about each chapter every week during their meetings to figure out how they can make their college campus safer. And it's even being used in a master's program for higher ed to help train professionals that want to advise college student organizations, which we never really intended, but we're so glad that it's being used in that way. It's just been an amazing experience to go through two times as a team, and now we're getting to work on our third book. So stay tuned for some more information to come because I think you're going to absolutely love it. Our next guest is Anna Rodin. Anna, her mission is to share experiences from her own life and research, as well as advice from experts for people in their 20s. Anna is an author being published in January of 2023, and she is working with New Degree Press and the Creator Institute to make this happen. She was brought to this book writing community after making some unexpected but extremely valuable detours, like studying abroad her first semester of school, getting her yoga teacher certification, and eventually transferring schools as well. So Anna is very excited to share all of her learnings and the learnings of everyone she's able to include in this book. Welcome to the show, Anna.
Thank you. I love the intro. That was great. Thank you.
I'm available. I mean, if you want to, pack me away in your suitcase, I can just introduce you on stages all around the country. Is that a deal?
That'd be great. I love it.
Let's make it happen. All right. So you decided on UConn for your undergraduate experience, but I think you transferred into UConn. So what made UConn your choice?
Yeah. So I transferred to UConn from Northeastern in Boston. It was not anything I intended on doing really at the beginning. I remember when I was applying for colleges, UConn, I'm from Connecticut, so my parents wanted me to apply. I really did not want to go. And I went to Northeastern, loved it for about 2 years. And then I went through a lot in a couple of months. I needed a break from the city, and UConn it was. I found myself exactly at the place I didn't want to be at, but I'm loving it now.
Everything works out, for a reason. And I really believe that, and so a lot of students, for whatever reason, their first choice of where they wanted to go to school doesn't work out. Maybe they need a break. They find themselves at another institution, but it seems like everything is working out just fine for you. So, I think, you just kind of have to roll with it and see where life takes you. We all have a plan going into college. We think that we're going to spend all 4 years at this institution. We think that this is the right major for us. And you know what? Then you get into it and you're like, well, maybe it wasn't exactly the way that I thought it was going to go.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's totally, totally fine. It doesn't mean that you failed at anything. It just means that life has a slightly different plan than what you expected. And I think, if there's anything that I can impart to the college students who are listening right now, is just be open to some of those, hills and valleys and twists and turns that are going to come your way, and just pay attention to what the world is trying to tell you. And sometimes I think it's just important to listen and to figure out what the right path is without saying, well, I absolutely positively have to stay on this path. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I mean, the path to success is not a straight line. A lot of people just think that like you just automatically know where you're supposed to go instinctively, but it's not always a straight path, and that's okay. Now, you went to study abroad at 18 years old to Italy, which I mean, that for my daughter who is getting ready to pick her college right now, that's like her dream is to study abroad. And I think Italy, she would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. Talk to our audience a little bit about what that experience was like studying abroad in Italy.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely amazing, as anyone would probably expect. Living in Rome was a dream for sure. But it was scary, obviously. I had never, that my parents were not moving me in. They were saying goodbye to me at an airport, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know Italian. It was all new. And one of the best decisions I ever made. I think that was really the start of me learning about myself and like learning what I like and what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And I kind of lucked out because it was right before COVID happened. So
Mhm.
definitely the right time. But I really do think it's if given the opportunity, everyone should grab it because it really is. It teaches you so much about yourself, the world, and other people that I think is so important, especially today.
Mhm. Was it hard to like make friends over there in Italy? Like, what was that like?
Yes, it was. I was lucky because there was a group of us that were also we were all kind of going in our first semester not knowing anything or anybody. So I think everyone was kind of desperate to make friends, which made it a little bit easier. um, but it was hard. We were all nervous and we're all in this new environment. But I was lucky to have met some of my best friends there. My best friend sat next to me on the plane, actually, on the way there, so that's how I met her. And I think it pushed all of us. We really had to like push ourselves to be open and start conversations and be just kind of open to anything coming our way because that's kind of what we all had to do. No one knew what was going on. So it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, that definitely helps that you had other people going through that experience at the same time as you. You can kind of lean on each other a little bit. And then you decided to get your yoga certification. Now, I love yoga. I actually took that for college credit. I had to do some kind of, gym course, and I'm like, okay, yoga sounds good. Maybe I'll meet, my future wife there. Who knows? And so I'm like, the odds are pretty good. I'm probably going to meet somebody. And I enjoyed it. It actually, taught me a lot about how to rest my mind every single night. So I can go to sleep in about 30 seconds utilizing all of the techniques that I learned in yoga. But talk to our audience a little bit about some of the benefits of yoga if they're interested in getting into it.
Yeah, I am a huge proponent of yoga for especially for this kind of age group. I think um I know people who love it and I know people who hate it. So I have friends in both categories and I think it's especially with social media, all the technology, we're just used to kind of running to the next thing. Our mind's always kind of on something. We have short attention spans now. That's just kind of how life is. And yoga for me, I mean, I found it incredibly boring when I first took my first class. I really was not a fan immediately, because it's kind of uncomfortable to sit in like the silence and the stillness when we're not used to it. But after a few classes, you get used to it, and it really trains your brain to, as you said, you can use it to like fall asleep quick, which a lot of us struggle with.
Mhm.
Even just like helping with anxiety, calming ourselves in a hard conversation or before a big exam or something. It is so applicable to everyday situations. So I could talk about that for hours. I think it's so important for people to at least try. It's not going to be for everybody, but give it a chance and try it out.
Excellent. I think that's great advice. Now, it's been this goal of yours to write a book. That's not necessarily everybody's goal, and I certainly didn't start until I was well into adulthood. So, I mean, I think it's great that you're doing it at a young age. I think it's awesome. But, what's driving you to publish this book? And it's called For Your Twenties. What is pushing you to make this happen now?
Yeah, so I took a semester off in between when I transferred schools, and during that time was when I signed up for my yoga teacher training course, and I was going through it in regards to my mental health and just a bunch of other things happening kind of externally in my life. And as I kind of went through those months, I was talking to people in my life, and I could see that some of the changes that I was making in my life were really resonating with others, especially friends in college and out of college, new in, their careers. And I just thought, why not put it into a book? And it was kind of an impulsive decision. And now, almost a year later, it's being published. So it's really just, I wanted to share my, what I learned in those kind of 5 months where I was really at a low. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. So
I think it's really healthy. I think it's really good for you to just kind of document all of that stuff. I think it's going to help you put that experience in a really good perspective, to document all of that. And then, of course, I'm sure you're going to read it later in life and be like, this is interesting that I felt this way
yeah.
then. Do I still feel that way? And just share your story, I think, with other college students that can learn something. I think it's a great exercise. I think you're going to learn a ton through that process. So I'm a big fan of what it is that you're doing. The other interesting thing is you interviewed a bunch of thought leaders for this book. Is there any of these thought leaders that you interviewed that just really just resonated with you?
Yeah, I was able to interview a lot of people, which I was so grateful for. I think I interviewed people like Gabby Bernstein, who's also an author and kind of a motivational speaker, and she's someone I have been a fan of for years, and just was lucky enough to get a meeting with her. And some of the wisdom that these people I was able to talk to is just, it's nice to get their perspective on this age group, because I think a lot of times this age group can often be looked over in regards to kind of these topics like mental health and just kind of everyday struggles, I think. So Gabby Bernstein was talking about social media with me, which was great. And I also talked to Heidi Powell, who's a fitness kind of entrepreneur, leader in that space. And I got her insights on fitness, but also just life and like her experiences as, when she was in her 20s. So it was great to just hear stories from these people, that we definitely don't hear about enough, I think.
Hmm. That is really cool. And I think there's a lot to learn from other people that are in the industry or other people with lived experiences, to interview them and put them in the book, because I think that just takes your book to a whole nother level. I mean, not only are you sharing your own experiences, but you're interviewing other people that have been through that as well and maybe got to the other side of it. And if they're successful, then I think their perspective is super important. So I love that you're including that. I think that's wonderful. The other thing I think that's also interesting about you is that you really believe that it's important to uncover old wounds and face old trauma. Why do you think that that's so helpful?
I personally believe that it'll catch up to you at some point, if you're kind of running from things, which definitely happened to me. But I think a lot of times it happens later in life. It definitely doesn't happen in this kind of time period where we're focused on a million other things and kind of just starting out in our adult life and career, and we're probably moving. It's just so many things are happening that usually we're too busy to even think about those things. But with going through my experience, talking to friends and people older than me, younger than me, professionals, I really believe that taking some time to go through maybe any kind of trauma, big or small, that happened to you, pain points, insecurities, I think it's so helpful to dig deep into those now so that we're able to move through life a little bit easier, and none of this is going to kind of sway us off or like really throw us off in the future. Of course, things will come up, but just kind of getting a handle on it now, I think, is so helpful.
I like that advice. I wish that when I was younger, I had that ability or took the chance, the opportunity to speak to a therapist about some of the things that had gone on in my life. It wasn't until I was well into adulthood did I ever do that. And I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like to be able to get all of this off my chest, because it's just like weighing you down.
Yeah.
And so to be able to talk through it and work through some of those things, there's a lot of relief in that, and it probably would have been beneficial for me as a college student to, just start talking to somebody about some of these issues and work through them. But it just wasn't something that I did. It wasn't something that people talked about. It was just
Hmm.
kind of the one thing. There's all this like stigma that's wrapped up in talking to a therapist, let's say, but really it's not a big deal to talk to somebody
Hmm.
about your problems. And I think especially for men too, it's like, what the way that we're brought up is that we're not supposed to show emotion. And so if you're wondering why the guy in your life isn't emotional, it's probably because he's been conditioned since he was a kid to not cry, to not talk about his problems. And unfortunately, a lot of guys out there, they just feel like there's nobody for them to talk to about their problems. So they just internalize it and just move on, until one day, something really terrible happens. And so I think we just need to get in the habit of removing that stigma and making it totally normal for young people to talk about their problems with their therapist, and just remove that stigma, that, hey, listen, I mean, the brain is another muscle, just like any other muscle in our body. If you and I
Hmm.
are going to go to the gym and we're going to work out and we're going to work on, shoulders today, or we're going to do legs today, why can't we just work on our brains today? It's just another muscle in our body, right? I mean, so we
Yes.
just need to get rid of that stigma, I think, is really the key. And I think we're getting there. I think it's
Hmm.
better with Gen Z, but we're still not all the way through. So anyway, so I love your answer there. What should our college students do if they are feeling a little bit lost right now and maybe overwhelmed navigating adulthood and choosing what career they're supposed to be going after?
Um, First of all, it's normal. I think all of us, um, most of us feel a little bit lost at this time. And, a lot of us go in with some kind of plan, whether that's kind of a career choice or a school or a city you want to live in. And whether or not it goes according to plan, it's all kind of um, for your best interest, I think. And taking everything as an experience, a learning experience. You might not get the job you wanted, or you break up with your significant other. Something happens that in the moment doesn't seem like it's like the worst thing in the world. But taking kind of a step back, looking at it from a higher level, and picking out things that you had to learn from it, I think just kind of shifts your mindset, and helps you move forward a little bit easier.
Very nice. Why do you think authenticity and vulnerability are so important in building relationships?
I think it's really similar to what you were saying about talking about your feelings. It's totally healthy, and it's definitely, especially for guys, not, I think, encouraged enough. Um, but the only way to really build a healthy relationship is to be authentic and vulnerable. You want people to know who you are, your true self. You don't want to, I've had this happen in my life and other people's lives. You kind of have this friendship or relationship based on this fake person you were trying to be, or you didn't tell them certain things or whatever the case was, and then something happens down the line and you're like, oh, actually, you're getting like all mixed up, and it's just not healthy, I think. And it's just better to start off from the start, be yourself, be authentic, be vulnerable, tell people how you feel, talk about the hard things. Healthy communication and open communication is key in any relationship, whether that's, romantic, friendship, professional. It's all necessary.
I totally agree. And so for all the fraternity and sorority students that are listening right now, I think about some of these, recruitment videos out of Miami where like it was a bunch of sorority women on a speedboat, in Miami. And that was like, it made it seem like this is what we do every day. And I'm like, that's so not even true. You're a college student. Like that's not every day. This is like a performance, what you're doing right now. And I think, and people say it all the time, whether it's men or women or whatever. But they say to me, Mike, we want to connect, but they're putting on a show. And I'm like, if you want to connect with other students on your campus, just be real with them.
Right.
Just tell them what you're struggling with. Tell them like what your goals are in life and what you dream about. Yes, is there vulnerability in sharing with somebody what you're struggling with today or what your dream is? Sure. that's definitely vulnerable. But the best connections are made that way. And if you ask me, what makes a great public speaker, I will tell you the answer is authenticity and vulnerability. If you can do that on stage, then the people who are in the audience, they're going to connect with you. Even if it's your story, they're going to find ways to connect with you in terms of the emotions that you're feeling. And they'll be like, oh, I felt that once. And so now you have a hook with everybody who's sitting in front of you in that audience. And that's what makes a great speaker. And so I think, the same thing is true for college students. Like you said, relationships, whether it be romantic or professional, or whatever. If you really want to connect, be authentic, be vulnerable, and you will be just blown away at the results and how deep a connection you can make with somebody using those two traits. So I think that is just fantastic, man. I can't wait to check out your book when it comes out. This is going to be so great. Now, before we go, I love going back home in New York City. I was born in Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan, New York City, and I love good food. Okay. So I need to know, what is your favorite restaurant in the city these days? Because I'm planning on heading back home pretty soon, and I need to know where you go to eat for the best food.
Yes. Well, I was also born in Mount Sinai in Manhattan, so I can relate. Let's see, the last really good place, I recently went to Cafe Luxembourg in the Upper West Side. Very good, very cute little place. So I recommend.
All right, that sounds perfect. I'm going to go and check it out, and I'm going to let you know what I think, because I'm always looking for good spots. Probably my first stop is going to be for a slice of pizza, because living in Nashville, Tennessee, I just don't get good quality pizza or bagels.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. I'm like, that is an imposter. I'm going to go to New York City and grab a slice, but I'll just grab a slice like real casual. It doesn't have to be a sit down thing. I'll just grab it and go, and then I'll head to your spot so that way I can have like a legit meal. Sound good?
Yes.
All right, this is great. So if our student listeners, if they want to pre-order your book, where should they go in order to pick it up?
I have a link in my bio on Instagram that I'm active on. My handle is @thisisforyour20s. And all the information is there. You can go, there's information about me, the book, and all the kind of bonuses that you can get when you pre-order with it. So go check it out.
Excellent. So go and follow Anna Rodin on Instagram, and you are going to find the link where you can go. It's in her bio to go and pre-order the book. It's called For Your 20s, and absolutely love that you're doing it. I think it's brave, but at the same time, so needed to hear your voice, so that way you can help other students in their journey, whatever it is that they're going through. So I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. So fun. I really appreciate it.
I'm so glad, Anna. And to our audience, if you like this talk with Anna, make sure that you like it. Make sure that you share it on social media with other college students that also need to go and pick up the book. It's called For Your 20s. And we appreciate you being here on the show. We hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.